The moment the signal hit Earth, everything changed. It started as a whisper in the void, a pattern buried in cosmic radiation, something ancient, something desperate. The world's brightest minds at NASA and ESA barely noticed it at first. Just another anomaly lost in the static of the universe. But then, against all odds, a grad student with a cracked laptop and a sleepless obsession posted a snippet of the signal online. Weird space noise. Sounds like a dishwasher, but make it math. Any nerds want to help? And just like that, the floodgates opened. Thousands of amateur code breakers, hobbyist astronomers, and digital sleuths dove into the mystery. Forums exploded with theories. AI programs were fed the data. Someone ran it through an ancient cuneiform translator just for fun. The pieces snapped together faster than anyone expected. Within 72 hours, humanity had done the impossible. It was a distress call, repeating across millennia, from a lost civilization buried deep in the stars. The transmission spoke of something waiting, something still alive. The galaxy's forgotten ones, calling out for rescue. It took less than a week for the news to break. The world reeled. Scientists debated the authenticity. Governments scrambled for control. Lin Min Tin Ha, the Galactic Council, the coalition of ancient, hyper-advanced species who had long considered humanity beneath notice. They're primitives. They still burn fuel to reach orbit. They can barely grasp quantum mechanics. Let them play with their little mystery. They will accomplish nothing. And yet, even as they laughed, even as they dismissed us, something was already happening. In a hangar hidden beneath the Nevada desert, in a place where rules had long been rewritten, Captain Hayden Cross stood before the skeleton of a spacecraft, UES Perseverance, and made a decision that would change history. "We're going," he said, arms crossed, staring at the rusted hull like it was a promise. "I don't care who says we can't. I don't care how impossible it sounds. If there's someone out there waiting for help, then we go." Across the room, Dr. Lana Kovacs, the only person crazy enough to keep up with him, narrowed her eyes. "You realize what you're saying, right? We don't have the tech. We don't have the approval. Hell, we don't even have a working warp drive." Hayden grinned, the kind of grin that had gotten him court-martialed twice and promoted 3 times. "Then we get creative." And just like that, the race began. The Proxians had ships faster than light. The Martian could fold space itself. The Xylar Collective had quantum gates scattered across the stars. But none of them had figured it out first. None of them had cracked the signal. So humanity did what it did best. We used math scrawled on coffee-stained napkins. And when the first human ship broke orbit, aimed toward the impossible, the galaxy finally started to realize they weren't asking for permission. The first problem wasn't the ship. It was permission. The moment Earth announced its intent to launch a rescue mission, the Galactic Council erupted in outrage. Alien diplomats, glowing with bioluminescent fury, filled the holographic transmissions with demands and laughter. "This is beyond reckless. You will die before you reach the signal. Let the real civilizations handle this. You are children playing in the dark. Your ship is a relic. It won't even make it past your own star system." But Hayden Cross never asked for permission. Behind closed doors, while politicians debated and scientists second-guessed, a handful of engineers and dreamers broke every rule in the book. The UES Perseverance, a ship that should have been in a museum, was being rebuilt in secret. Its outdated fusion drives pushed beyond safety limits. Its navigation system patched together with military surplus and duct tape. Inside the underground Nevada facility, Lana Kovacs paced furiously, watching as tech crews swarmed the ship like ants. "This is madness," she muttered, glaring at Hayden. "You know that, right? We're not ready." Hayden leaned against the control panel, looking entirely too comfortable for someone about to steal a spaceship. "Lana, when has humanity ever been ready for anything?" She shot him a look. "That is not a comforting argument." Still, she stayed, maybe because she knew deep down that the council was wrong, that if humanity waited for permission, for the perfect technology, for the ideal moment, it would never come. No one was ever ready. So they prepared anyway. And when the council declared a formal blockade, stating that no Earth vessel would be allowed to launch toward the unknown, Hayden moved up the timeline. The night of the launch, alarms blared through the underground base. Earth's government was caught between 2 forces, the galactic superpowers demanding compliance, and a crew that refused to stand down. The security teams arrived too late. The UES Perseverance had already fired its engines. And for the first time in history, humanity officially broke away from the Galactic Council's authority. Lana braced herself as the ship rattled. "How the hell are we even flying?" she shouted over the deafening roar. Hayden grinned, gripping the controls with both hands. "We tuned the engines past their safety thresholds." Lana's eyes went wide. "That is a terrible idea." "Yeah," he admitted, as the stars came into view. "But it's working." Behind them, Earth grew smaller, shrinking into the vast darkness of space. Ahead, the unknown waited. The Galactic Council scrambled to respond. Fleets were mobilized, faster, better-equipped ships launched. But none of them had the desperation of a species that had spent its entire existence fighting against odds. By the time the aliens caught up, humanity was already ahead, and the race had officially begun. The Perseverance wasn't built for this. It rattled, groaned, and screamed through every light year, holding itself together by sheer defiance. The ship's AI kept warning about heat stress, about radiation leaks, about things that would have made a saner crew turn back. The Galactic Council's fastest ships were closing in. The Proxians, with their sleek, gravity-warping vessels, were calculating their approach. The Marashan scouts had already plotted the most efficient route. The Xylar Collective was waiting for the humans to burn out, as expected. And yet against all logic, humanity was still ahead. Lana sat in the cramped cockpit, staring at the impossible math Hayden had scribbled across the holotable. "You want to slingshot around a neutron star?" she said flatly. Hayden, hunched over a cup of instant coffee, grinned. "Yep. That is, objectively speaking, the worst idea I have ever heard. But will it work?" She stared at the numbers, at the ridiculous calculations that no proper scientist would ever attempt. Theoretically, it should be possible. Practically, it was reckless. Lana exhaled, rubbing her temples. "We'll either die instantly or save 2 weeks of travel time." Hayden clapped a hand on her shoulder. "See? That's the spirit." The ship whipped around the neutron star, riding the impossible forces like a surfer on a cosmic wave. The metal screamed, the artificial gravity flickered, and for 42 seconds, they existed in a place between physics and madness. The Perseverance emerged intact, its course flung light years ahead of the competition. For the first time, the Galactic Council took notice. The humans, the primitive, reckless creatures they had dismissed, had done something none of them had considered, and they weren't stopping. But space is unforgiving. A micrometeorite storm, one that wasn't on any star charts, slammed into them 2 weeks later. Hull breach, power failure, oxygen systems critically damaged. Lana's voice cut through the emergency alarms. "We need to stop. We need to fix this." Hayden, gripping the console, didn't stop. She grabbed his arm. "Hayden, we're losing air." He turned, eyes burning. "And if we stop, we lose." She had never seen him like this, pushed to the edge, carrying the weight of something far bigger than himself. "We are the only ones who answered that signal." "Lana, if we stop now, if we turn back, then we prove them right. We prove that we are small." Then, without another word, she helped him fix the ship. They patched the hull with emergency plating and literal duct tape. They rerouted oxygen through the coolant system. They jerry-rigged a fusion core with spare reactor parts and pure desperation. The ship had worked. By the time the Council's lead ships reached the storm, the humans had already left them in the dust. The impossible was happening. Humanity, the weakest, the most unprepared, the least advanced species in the race, was winning. The signal was getting stronger. They were close. Lana clutched the edge of the console as the Perseverance rattled from another course correction, its overworked engines screaming in protest. The ship had no business still flying. But then again, neither did they. Every alarm was flashing red. Every system was running on borrowed time. And yet, they were still moving. Ahead of them, the source of the transmission loomed. A massive, ancient structure floating in the abyss, wreathed in the cold glow. It was not a derelict. It was active, pulsing with energy that defied the logic of time. This was it, the lost civilization. The ones who had called out into the void for help. But they weren't the only ones who had arrived. The Proxians were already in orbit, their sleek, silver ships scanning the structure with careful precision. The Mauritian fleet was deploying drones, testing the defenses. The Xylar Collective had begun transmitting complex quantum keys, attempting to interface with the structure's ancient security systems. None of them had made it inside. And then, against the black void of space, the Perseverance came barreling in, engines sputtering, barely holding together, burning too fast, too reckless, too human. Lana's fingers danced over the console, scanning the structure, searching for a point of entry. "It's completely locked down," she muttered. "Thousands of layers of encryption. Some of it isn't even digital. This thing wasn't built to keep people out. It was built to make sure only the right ones got in." Hayden leaned forward, staring at the alien glyphs glowing across the surface of the structure. It wasn't just language. It was a test. That's why the Council's ships had failed. They were approaching it like scientists. Hayden's voice was quiet, but certain. "It's a door." Lana blinked at him. "No shit. Cross. That's what we've been saying." He didn't look at her. He was staring at a particular sequence of glyphs, repeating in intervals, a pattern. Not just a security lock, not just an interface. Something older. Something universal. He reached forward. Before Lana could stop him, he knocked. A low, resonating chime echoed through the void. The ancient structure responded. Across the comm channels, the Galactic Council erupted in disbelief. The structure lit up, its defenses deactivating, its impossible gates opening. Silence stretched across the fleet. And then Lana exhaled, shaking her head. "Did you just—" Hayden grinned. "Sometimes. You just gotta ring the doorbell." Inside, the truth was waiting. Inside, the air was ancient, not in the way of dust and decay, but in a way that hummed with time itself, like walking through the bones of something that had seen the birth of stars. The chamber stretched infinitely, its walls lined with luminous glyphs that shifted, evolving with every step. Only a single, pulsing core of light at the center of the room. Lana moved first, scanning the structure, her voice unsteady. "This isn't a distress beacon," she swallowed. "It's an archive. A vault." Hayden stepped forward, his heart hammering in his chest. "Then what the hell were they waiting for?" The moment his voice filled the air, the vault responded. The glyphs around them shifted, aligning into something recognizable, not a language, not an equation, but something far simpler. And on that timeline, humanity's trajectory was wrong. Every other species had followed predictable patterns, orderly, controlled, advancing step by careful step. But humanity? Humanity's path zigzagged wildly, breaking conventions, skipping entire centuries of expected development, defying every rule of evolution. Lana's breath caught. They weren't asking for help. She turned to Hayden, her face pale with realization. They were waiting for us. The vault had predicted every civilization, every pattern, every equation that led species from fire to faster-than-light travel. The vault shifted again, revealing its final message. It wasn't in words. It wasn't in sound. It was an invitation. Hayden reached out, his fingers brushing the control panel. And in that moment, something unlocked. The galaxy had always assumed the lost civilization had vanished. But they hadn't. They had simply moved on, transcended into something beyond the physical, waiting for the right kind of species to continue their work, to reshape the universe, not just follow the rules written before them. And humanity, the reckless, stubborn species that never knew when to quit, was exactly what they had been waiting for. Behind them, the Galactic Council's ships hovered in stunned silence. They had spent lifetimes trying to crack the vault. Hayden exhaled, his voice calm, steady, and filled with something bigger than victory. "This changes everything." Lana smirked, running a hand through her hair, her exhaustion replaced by something close to awe. "Yeah." She glanced at him, shaking her head. "And knowing you, you're not gonna let them keep it, are you?" Hayden grinned, looking back at the fleet of stunned alien spectators, at the vast cosmic puzzle laid before them. The knowledge of an entire civilization waiting to be claimed. And for the first time in history, humanity wasn't following anyone else's path. They were about to write their own.